Talking to Alexander Bongartz today. He's Scottish, living in Prague. He's a Green Beret, Commando, Royal Commando, and has spent over 25 years in military and private contracting. In war zones, he's been to Iraq, Afghanistan. He was one of the first people to enter Afghanistan after 9/11. And he told me his background, his family, and troubled childhood and teenage years that kind of led him with no other option than military. Very interesting reasoning that he had for choosing that career path. Explained me the training, how it works, how tough it is, and what you need to be capable of doing. Why they keep everything clean and why this obsession about routines exists in the military. How it is to be in a war zone and under attack, what he feels about the casualties, the politics, and basically how people appreciate the work that people like him do. And then how it has been for him to kind of transition from this life into what we could say like a more of a civilian or normal life. It was a very interesting talk. I have a feeling that I could have spoken to him for a lot longer. At least I was very curious because it's not very often that you get to meet someone who has reached this level. I mean, Royal Commandos is it's the second highest tier in the military. These are special forces. These are, like he says himself, a bunch of James Bonds wandering around. Check this out, guys. It's very interesting. And the sponsors, that's the Oat Bar on Cypher Tower 21 in Žižkov, close to Churchill Square, easy to reach, amazing food, just amazing. There is nothing bad at the Oat Bar, and healthy but tasty. Organic stuff, homemade, you name it. And crazy skyr, Icelandic recipe made in an organic farm just outside of Prague. So try that out. Or order it home on Volt or Bolt. And then Alfred Jobs, alfred.cz, where you can find your next job. Now it's easier than ever to find a job. You just go in and you say what you want, and from that moment you will get those jobs sent to you or notified whenever they're coming, and you can apply with one click. Couldn't be more easy. Also available as an app in the App Store, Alfred Jobs. And guys, if you are already not, if you're not already subscribers to my YouTube channel, then go and subscribe there. Please in iTunes or Apple Podcast review. I only accept 5-star reviews, just to be clear on that. Review and give me some 5 stars. Thank you. Welcome to my bunker, Al Bongartz. Am I saying it right? Your second name?
Close enough. Yeah? Yes, you are. Yeah.
How would you say it?
Al Bongartz.
But you're Scottish.
I am.
But you don't speak Scottish.
You're right. I don't speak Scottish. Yeah.
Why not?
I'm not drunk.
Yeah, but you're here because we have a mutual friend, Jeff Tyson, a musician, very talented, one of the best guitar players in the world, I have to admit. He actually was on my podcast. I haven't put out that episode, or I probably will have put that episode out now when this one comes out. So check out Jeff. He told me about you, and he said that you might have some interesting things to tell me. You have dedicated your career to military. Green Beret, Commando, what are you?
So,
or what have you been?
Well, you are forever. It's not something you kind of do as a part-time job. As a youngster, I joined the British military. I joined up and I became a commando, Royal Engineers Commando, 5'9", and then spent my time, most of my adult life, deploying, doing the Queen's bidding, as they say, and then upon retiring, really, or leaving the military, I've carved my way into advanced care medicine, and now I study, I learn, I teach, and I treat sick people wherever I can.
What is advanced care medicine? Just for
So I'm not a physician.
mm.
However, I'm as highly qualified as you can get before you become a physician. In some terms, I've just completed a master's in emergency and resuscitation medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a paramedic. That's highly qualified, really.
And but what kind of people would you then serve with this?
So
skills?
if I was working in the US or the UK, I'd likely be on critical care. Here, I'm a member of the Institute of the Postgraduate Medical Education on the Emergency Medical Faculty, and what I do is here I coordinate their international training programs for suitability in their emergency medical system.
So, like, in what kind of emergency would that be? Like a natural disaster or something like this?
No, daily critical emergencies
Uh-huh.
daily. So, car crash, somebody gets severely injured. When they call the helicopters, that's when it's critical. Or when someone is very, very sick, they may be terminal and they may need to move from one hospital to another. Then what they'll, not that, not now. What they might do is they might call a critical care transport or transfer, and they'll then use an ambulance with highly qualified staff, a lot more instruments than normal, and then move that patient in that vehicle.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even know that this exists. But this comes out of military in a way, or what?
It came to me because during my time in the military, I did my medical courses, and before getting promoted and doing other roles, I was the team medic,
Mm-hmm.
and the usefulness of that has never been lost on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on in life, sadly, my stepdad died, and I was the first responder, and he died. And it wasn't really guilt-led, but I realized then, I thought then, I need to know more about this. And so I've studied and followed as much schooling as I've been able to as time's gone on how to know as much as possible about these events, and therefore, when people are at the most critical and at the most vulnerable, apply as much care as I can.
Mm-hmm. But before all this, before military, and before you then transition into this, where did it all start? You're born in Scotland.
I was born in Edinburgh,
Yeah.
Arguably the greatest place in the world, next to Prague.
Yeah.
Start in one awesome place and then retire in another. It's how it goes. So Edinburgh's a fantastic city.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see much of the city as a youngster because I grew up in Wester Hales.
And that is?
Wester Hales is a shithole.
Okay.
It is possibly on Donald Trump's list of places that wouldn't get a visa if you said you were from there. If you think the movie Trainspotting, that's probably the best imagery in your mind, very accurately so, of Wester Hales, where I grew up.
From a social and cultural standpoint, or
Absolutely all of it, from the drug scene, the everything. Those characters were bang on the money for not just family members, but for friends of family members. Yeah.
And why is that? Why does a place like this become like that? Why do this in the British Empire? You know.
Well, the Wester Hales was all of the council housing. It was state housing for poor people, and so the state housing, obviously, you get an apartment from the state. You have a job, or you're on the dole. We call it the dole, which is on benefits. And and so you're the bottom of the barrel, and so when you're the bottom of the barrel, for some reason everything turns towards illicit substances, alcohol, and the things that come after that. You know, the eclectic, borderline criminal lifestyle. You know,
and your family, it's a big family. I mean, you had 5 brothers and 2 sisters, so you're 8 kids in the household.
Then it was 3 big brothers and 2 big sisters in that household. 2 little brothers came later.
And were you living in those social houses or system houses?
So we were living in a place in Wester Hales, and it had me, 4 of us in one room, the bedroom. So it was a bit of a luxury because we were in one room and the sisters were in another room. And I think mum and dad had another room, maybe, or it was a broom closet that was turned into a room. So yeah, it was. We had relative luxury as it was. Yeah.
And what did your parents do? What were they?
My old man, he was a former soldier, then truck driver. He used to deliver coal back then. Yeah, he was a truck driver, delivered coal. Then in his later days, he was a taxi driver, a cabbie. And then that was all she wrote, unfortunately. His line ended when I was 5.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how was that, an accident or?
Just heart attack.
Uh-huh.
He was old, and it was back then. There wasn't much about lifestyle, hard drinking, hard living, squatty, trucker. You know, it was lots of beer, lots of smoking, lots of very manly, basic dude stuff.
Yeah. And what about your mom? What was she? I guess it was a full-time job taking care of all those kids, right?
Mom's a housewife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was how was it growing up in a neighborhood like this? I mean, were you exposed to a lot of trouble?
You didn't perceive it as trouble. I don't remember much because when the old man died, my mum and him had just split up shortly before then. I can't remember the timeline because I was a youngster. And then we moved to the neighbouring housing estate where my mum had shacked up with some other guy. And that was sort of the start of us moving around for the next 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm. With the different in that area, or?
My mum moved in with this other guy, and he was let's say he was fairly loose with his hands. I remember some fairly good beatings actually. Now we call it child abuse, but then we just called it, I suppose, discipline.
Yeah.
And so but I do remember one instance that obviously when I was visiting my dad, because he was still alive back then, at the weekends when I got a chance to, I told my brothers what was going on, my big brothers at the time, and my brother Ricky came around the house and told this fella to quit it, you know, and let's say he told him to quit it or he'd take his hand to him. And Ricky was only 8 years older than me, so a teenager himself, but he came to stand up for me.
That's great.
That's my brothers.
Yeah.
That's my family. We stand up for each other.
Yeah. And so you ended up moving to Wales, right?
Yeah, we after my mum split up with whoever she was with, at that time she then had me and my younger brother. And we ended up homeless for some time and in a hostel. Bounced around a few hostels. I remember 1 or 2 where we all we grew up in one room, and then just me, my mum, and my now new younger brother, and we bounced around from homeless hostel to homeless hostel until my mum met this guy, David, in North Wales, David Thomas. And he became my stepdad and was an amazing guy.
But how is it? Where were your older siblings then? So you say that you and your younger brother were bouncing around with your mom. Where were the older ones?
Well, they stayed with my old man, and because of the age, then my old man, when he died, they were all of age, living a life or in the military.
And how was it in Wales? It's totally different from Scotland, right?
Yeah. I'd like to say it sucked, actually, straight away. It just sucked. Because I was just different, I suppose. Youngster, big mouth, loads of energy. And the school I joined my birthday fell between the border of the school year, and because of that, I joined one class, and they realised they'd put me in the wrong class and then bounced me ahead a year. So I went from being the biggest in the class to the littlest in the class, but my volume and behaviour did not change, and so I don't know if I painted a target on my own back, or it was a different accent, or just my general personality, or their general personality, but I got picked on a little bit, and I didn't shy away from conflict then or now or ever really, but I got picked on a little bit, and the bullying was quite sustained throughout my whole school time because I just carried on into it. I'm biased to forward movement, I suppose.
And you fought back?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Lots of scraps behind the bike sheds, lots of school chairs thrown, lots of scrapping all the time, the time.
And what was it that they had against you that you were Scottish?
Well, I was from out of town. I was foreign. I wasn't. I was different, and I didn't really feel a need to want to be like them or fit in like those around me. I thought, I was very proud of being from Scotland, and I still am, and that's the way it is. So basically, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not always the best message when you're the new kid in town.
Absolutely not. And I was built like I had a week to live. Absolutely skinny as a rake. Nothing on me. I was little. I was little. If I walked over a cattle grid, I would disappear down the gaps. Seriously little. But also, because we were poor, I had second-hand clothes, holes in my shoes, nothing trendy.
And this is in what, like 80s, 90s, right?
Yeah. This was the late 80s. Yeah.
So it's I remember this time. You had to have the right brands. Already you had to have the right shoes. And,
I think Reebok Air came out. You pump up your trainers and stuff like that. Yes. I was like, wow. Yeah. I'm still wearing shoes to PT.
Yeah.
Those little black slip-ons. Yeah. I'm still but hey ho, and that was it. And kids are brutal. Kids are absolutely brutal. They just go at you, and so you go back at them. Yeah.
Well, some people break, other people fight back.
It wasn't. It's not a hero story. I went home more than once in tears, bloody nose, torn clothes, and then I get home and my mum would rip me a new one for getting my clothes bloody, messy, and torn up, and it would be my misbehaviour that was the problem. Because so it's not like I was just rolling through them every day victorious. It was a sustained, it was hard work. It was hard work. I just wanted out. And,
But this sounds like, it doesn't sound like a dream. I mean, if you imagine being born in Trainspotting and then having an abusive stepdad, or like a violent stepdad, and being in those environments. I mean, what was your surviving mechanism? What kept kind of the hope?
I don't know. No idea.
Any role models? I mean, was there any, like your father while he was still alive, or your older brothers or something, or anyone you could look up to?
No, just wanted to join the army.
Mm. And you knew that already.
Yep.
At a young age.
Yep. I just wanted to be a soldier.
And what answer would that give you? You know what I mean? How would that be like a way out?
It was a way out because you join the army, you get 3 square meals a day, you get a roof over your head, you get clothes. The rules are the same for everyone. And your persistence and hard work is rewarded with promotion. Mm-hmm.
So you're not. So you're not bound by social class or any caste or anything like this. You basically, everyone is on equal terms and treated the same way.
You turn up at basic training and they go through your stuff, take anything off you that's contraband. You get your head shaved, you get uniform, you get taught to march around a bit of tarmac. And I suppose that seemed like a nice idea to me considering that everywhere I went, I didn't feel like I fitted in.
But there must have been some, like, I don't know. I mean, because how old are you when you think that or when you find out that that's what you want to do?
It was my big brother Gary. He helped me.
He went in.
Yeah, he was in, and I remember him from my youngest years coming back from the military at the weekends, the uniform, and how everybody was proud of him coming back to Wester Hales.
Yeah.
You know,
where there weren't many things to be proud of.
Where you know what, I don't want to paint it in too much of a bad light because I was so young, but I just thought, because I'm only just really thinking about focusing on that question right now. Yeah, that was it, and then he sustained that. I didn't see my family for years. And then they found me again in North Wales 4 or 5 years after we left Scotland. And they found me. And then he mentored me when I said I wanted to join up. He took me to the careers office for my first visit. And yeah. So yeah, when you ask about role model, yeah, it was my eldest brother.
Because you saw that he was doing something that made him happy, gave him pride, gave him respect.
I had a car.
Yeah.
He had a car. He had a nice shiny car. It went fast. I was like, how do I get one of those? You know, get a job. How do I get a job?
Yeah.
Well, join the army. They'll give you a job for free.
Yeah.
They'll find a job for you if you get in, you know. Yeah, they found lots of jobs for me. It was nice.
Yeah, life is not always very complicated, actually, especially when you're young. It's about fulfilling some basics.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, I couldn't think around the corner back then. I'm pretty sure I don't think around many corners now, to be honest. But when you're young and you don't have a lot, the simplest thing of some security in life and something that you can own that's yours is quite a big deal.
Yeah,
considering you've been having hand-me-down, second-hand, and free clothes for most of your young adult life. Yeah,
that's true. But you mentioned David, right? That was the stepdad's name. He was a good guy.
He was amazing.
Yeah,
I wasn't. I was a temperamental little shit.
Towards him also, or
no, just in general. I was misdirected. But he was an ex-soldier too. He had bad angina. Obviously, that's what got him in the end. But he always had patience for me. Never lifted a hand to me. Loved my mum. Loved my little brother. And then along came another little brother, Christopher, who is still pretty close. It's really nice. He looked after me. And he, never lifted a finger and always tried to be there for me, no matter how misdirected I was.
But he also influenced your or inspired you to go and do something. And I think you told me you found out around this time, or you were going into, you had two choices. That was either the infantry or technical college, right?
Right. So I turned up at the army careers office with my big brother, and I took the entrance exam. And surprising to me, I scored really, really highly. It was the second highest score they'd had in that office to date at that time. And so that was surprising to me because school had always been a bit hit and miss. And what came about then was a big list of jobs, huge list of jobs, from helicopter pilot right down to cleaner, I suppose. However, I had no GCSEs qualifications from school. Because I hadn't really completed school properly. So I would either join the infantry that day, or I could go away and do 2 semesters at Clondreth Low Technical College, and that BTEC diploma would serve as a proof of education.
Yeah.
To allow me
into a higher level or
into a different choice.
Yeah,
put me in a different bracket,
because
basically.
the infantry is kind of the entry level of military, right?
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say entry level. I mean, infantry are an absolutely useful tool, but they are a bunch of tools.
Yeah. And now you're laughing.
Well, there's probably a few infantry blokes out there that'll catch me up later.
But the role of infantry in war, let's say, what is the role of infantry in war?
To soldier.
Okay. To do the ground fights.
To soldier. Yep.
And what's the difference, for example, between Marines and infantry?
Marines are waterborne infantry, and a few of them will catch me up later for that statement.
Okay. so they will come.
They come on the boats,
on
hit
the boats.
The beach, go up.
Infantry
the cliffs.
comes parachuting or
well, the paras come parachuting. So the parachute regiment. I better be careful with this one. The paras they drop in out the sky. The Marines they hit the beaches, and eventually the infantry will get there in their tractors.
Yeah. But it's always I don't know. I mean, I'm from Iceland. We don't have a military, and but so most of the stuff that I'm going to say here today is something that I've seen in movies and stuff like that. But you always kind of have a feeling that the infantry is a little bit looked down at.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it is the entry level. They have specialists within their roles. But my big brother was infantry, and he ended up, he's a truck driver now in his 50s. He's happy. He's happy, but he was in the infantry. They became mechanized. That means by vehicle. They moved by vehicle, and so he became a driver, an instructor of drivers. There's nothing he can't drive, but that's it. There is a narrow pathway for those guys.
The less advanced choices there.
So let's say a guy who's a machine gunner will be a machine gunner, and he'll get promoted, and he'll lead a gun team, and then he'll lead a platoon. Then he'll maybe get out the military. He's really good with a machine gun. He can tell you everything about a machine gun.
He can go and work in Wester Hales.
But I probably could get a job in Wester Hales at the chemist, because they're pretty sure they got a machine gun outside.
Yeah. Anyway, so you didn't want to go into the infantry, so you go into technical college, and you had never been really good at school.
Some things were easy.
Yeah.
The understanding of sciences seemed pretty easy. Funnily enough, art was the highest grade I got in school. Sciences were good. Language was difficult. Language was difficult for me. English was difficult, although English literature was easy because it was the reading and literary aspect, I suppose. But school was hard. I felt I was told it was my behavior that led me to be a disruptive element in my own learning. And so you get told that, you believe that, right? Because
over time, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's how school was for me.
But you found out that you had some issues.
Yeah, technical college is really good because Llanrithlo College, when we started, I did a BTEC diploma in motor vehicles, service and repair road vehicles, sort of following my big brother's path and wanting to drive everything and fix everything. And when we were doing a theory portion at the beginning, I had real trouble taking notes. I could understand what was going on, but I could not take the notes. And they sent me off to not sent me off like in the ambulance or a straitjacket. Yeah, no, they didn't send me off. They said, "Do you want to go and see somebody who'll have a look at to see if you have any difficulties with this?" And it came back. It came back that from what I was writing, the way I was writing, and the way I used the written word, that I'm dyslexic. It's not a great issue, and it wasn't. It's not a huge issue. It still exists now. When I'm taking notes, some letters will come out the wrong way. Capital letters get replaced with baby letters and vice versa. All my P's and my B's end up being switched around. Technology these days with spell check, it does me great.
Yeah. But when you discovered this, was it easier than afterwards? I mean, or was it just knowing that you're not stupid, it's actually just some dysfunction?
A bit of both, actually. A bit of both. I realized that what my teachers were saying was bullshit, even though probably my behavior that came from that, did the tail wag the dog, or was the dog still wagging the tail? Self-fulfilling prophecy, all of that. So the knowledge meant that I thought, okay, I'm not stupid. Again, any of my friends listen to this, some may disagree. However, I'm not stupid, but it did make me self-conscious then. Every time I went to write, I thought harder. And so then I avoided writing as much as possible, because then if the teachers thought I was stupid because of my written word, then hey, I'm just not going to do that as much as possible. And that didn't serve me too well, really. So, yeah, I cared about school less, because the conclusion of school less, because of this this diagnosis. However, it did make me move away from any sort of academic approach.
So it kind of just strengthened your belief in to go into the military path.
Yeah, I thought, well, the military, the way they teach, and I know far more about it now, and I'm so glad I went that way, because the way they teach and the way they empower you, it was not based around it's not the academic style. It's the more so see one, do one, teach one style of learning, and that suited me.
So I guess there was no other option. I mean, I'm just curious, because a guy with your background and family history and those. I mean, this would be like a social services case if this was happening today. No disrespect, but and it probably was already back then as well. But you never. You have been like a perfect guy into crime.
Well, that's the other choice, isn't it? That was the other. Well, that's the other shoe, if you want to call it that.
But that never was, ever. There was never a career choice there, or.
That yeah, of course there is. There is. There was. I chose the other. Yeah. There was a career choice that way. There was a few forks in the road, let's say. And I continued on the path that's led me here today.
Yeah. So then you go through the technical college, and then you get into something that you told me about that's called Royal Signals, and I know you that was just for a brief moment. Mm-hmm. But I'm just a little bit curious, because when I heard that name, I didn't really understand what it is. But then I read about it. But if you tell me very briefly, what are the Royal Signals? What's their role?
So the Royal Signals, obviously, I went back to the careers office, diploma in hand, like, right, give me a job, and they went, right, what do you want out of these? And I said, I want to go into the one that gets me into work as soon as possible. And they said, right, we've got an induction next week. Royal Signals. I went, right, I'll go.
And you didn't even know what it was?
No. And I chose the trade, which was a lineman back then. And it was my trade would have been, first of all, Royal Signals is a bunch of the radio operators, the guys who are in charge of communication and communication networks for the military. The word signals comes back from the old days.
Yeah. When they were sending with pigeons.
Morse code, and we still learn Morse code, So, so that's where signals came from.
And that is then taking care of combat communication networks, or also all. Mm-hmm.
As it was then.
Okay. And but there is, So, are these? Why is it called Royal? What is it? Everything is royal.
Everything's royal when you work for Her Majesty the Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Royal Marines, Royal Signals. Yeah.
And you don't stay with this communication or with the signals for long, right?
Well, firstly, the cap badge looks a bit girly, so I didn't kind of like the girly badge.
Yeah.
And you go to a phase 1 training, which is basically an infantry school for 10 weeks, and all cap badges are mixed up. And it doesn't matter where you're going next. Signals.
Yeah, because that's the base level.
Yeah. So that's the base level. That's marching, shooting, and clean your shoes, personal hygiene, make your bed.
It's like in Full Metal Jacket.
Funnily enough, that base where it was filmed, was actually Army Training Regiment Basingbourn, and it's the same base I trained at.
Really?
Yeah, it's not in America. It's not Paris Island. Look at the road markings. They're British. So anyway, sorry, there's a little... Was I allowed to say that? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so yeah, base level, exactly that.
Yeah. And how real is that? Like in movies like this, you know, wake up at 6 and eat and go out and march and
pretty much. Pretty much. We weren't in rooms with bunk beds like that. Now we're about 8 in a room. We all had a locker, a bed. Every day you're inspected, up, ironed, cleaned. You know, dust on the top of the doors, windowsills. Everything was dusted. Brassies were polished. Everything was clean. Anything was found to be dirty, there was punishment. There was push-ups. There was burpees until your arms wouldn't work anymore or your legs wouldn't work anymore or you were just a gibbering wreck or the staff got bored.
And why do you think this attention to detail is? What purpose does it serve?
Discipline. Discipline. It's an element of, I'm not going to use the word brainwashing, it's an element of conditioning. So let's... You're all from different backgrounds. You've all got different strengths, weaknesses, but you're all in there for one purpose. And so at the end of every day, when you finish your training day, you've got to still do your duties. And although those duties are mundane and benign, they do still have to be done. Because when you do go out there into the field or you do deploy, there are lots of mundane things you have to do. In the middle of the desert or the jungle, you still have to keep up personal hygiene. You know, and that discipline must be instilled somewhere.
So it's creating those routines of.
It's creating the understanding that I believe that the understanding that the mundane is actually necessary. And also, if your hands aren't busy, you start to mess around with shit that you shouldn't mess around with. So there's also the,
keeping a bunch of young kids busy as much as possible.
Pretty much is a bit of both. Don't give them too much time to reflect, and also instill this. Because every day somebody else was a senior student nominated to run the evening cleanups and report to the staff and keep everybody in line. So it's just this indoctrination, if you will.
And what about the physical part? Like, you know, like we see in those in movies and TV series and stuff like that. You see this marching with 30-kilo backpack, full outfit.
So the basic military, it isn't so hard. It is when you just come from the street, right? I'm looking at it from the back end now. Then it was really hard conditioning, but it's phased into you. You don't just get given 30 kilos and then some belt kit and a rifle and told get on with it. You are progressed through the military training corps, the physical training corps. Very, very good. They phase you into it. You will start gently and be led into it. You'll be well fed. You'll be looked after. If you get injured, you go to the clinic, the sick bay. You get repaired. You get physioed. So it's not just a thrashing, as some people might perceive it. You know.
Yeah, it's. I think. Yeah, it's. I'm very curious about this because. A lot of things come out of the military, like, for example, fitness-wise, you know, like there's a lot of trends, fitness trends and technology that comes out of this because obviously in this area, people are always looking for improvement somehow.
I know, like CrossFit. Somebody's making loads of money with CrossFit and Spartan races. I was doing those exercises in the 90s because that's what we got told to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually wanted to mention CrossFit as an example because that kind of comes out of the military. Yeah.
Well, it seemed to. I was out the military when it came out. I went to CrossFit gym and I was like, I'm not paying for this shit. I used to get paid to do this shit. Yeah. You know?
But how? So you do that basic infantry or let's say military that everybody does, and then you go. And then you're supposed to go back in, or then you go into the signals.
Yeah,
with that ugly badge.
that should have happened. Yeah. However, on week 2, I was introduced to his name was Corporal Clooney. He had a Green Beret, Royal Engineers cap badge, and he was a monster, 6'2", just looked like an absolute, he'd freaking eat barbed wire, that sort of guy. And I thought, I want to be like that bastard. And whenever he walked around, everybody was nervous because you thought, this guy, he's just gonna destroy me by looking at me. You know, like, fuck, he's a machine. And so to that end, I thought, how do I do that? And my job's going to be pretty shit. So I found out Royal Engineers get to blow things up. We get to drive everything, blow things up. We get to do stuff. You know, just I can't describe it all, from blowing things up to building bridges to cutting things down with chainsaws, abseiling through the jungle, sitting on the skid of a helicopter, being cool. You know, we got to do stuff.
It's
you know?
not telecommunications and faxes.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a teletyping anytime soon.
Morse coding.
And then, but I mean, there's a whole spectrum of things that the engineers do, which is just mega. It's everything you want to do. You can do. They'll find a niche for you. And sorry, I'm talking with my hands, which might cause a bit. No,
that's okay.
All right. So, but yeah, there's a niche for everybody in the engineers, if you're willing to work hard. And so they were happy to just change cap badges for me there in week 2. Yeah, here's a different cap badge, whatever. Means nothing to us. Meant everything to me.
But that then you need to be trained into that, I guess.
Yeah, that's phase 2. That comes next.
And how does that then work? Then you go into more of the specialities, right?
Well, yeah, so then you go into combat engineering, which is class 3 combat engineering. So it's you usually finish by class 1 many, many years later. But class 3, as you go in, it's another about 12 weeks. And every couple of weeks you change element. So you start off with basic engineering, which is how to work everything from a hammer and chisel, a 26-inch crosscut saw, generators, how to start and fuel and fix them, how to work chainsaws, everything, every tool you can think of. They have in their G1098 store, and you learn how to clean them, maintain them, use them to effect. You get taught basic carpentry, basic bricklaying, basic metal work. Then after that, you go on to route access, route denial. Route access is building roads. Route denial is how to stop people getting to you across that road. Route access, route denial, mine warfare, putting them in the ground, taking them out of the ground, blowing things up, building bridges without equipment to build bridges. Basically a whole plethora of improvisational techniques to get your guys to complete their mission.
So I guess that the Royal Engineers are a support function to the front line in this case. I mean, you
absolutely, yeah, that is it.
But you also get. I mean, so you need to, first of all, I mean, you need to be physically fit. You know, like your body has to be in a good shape. And then you need to know all these trades, you know, laying bricks and building and burning down and whatever, you know, and how to deal with different chemicals and engines and stuff. But then there is also the fighting part or the combat part, I guess. And to be able to apply all this when things are going off around you and somebody is desperately trying to kill you. So I guess that's one part of the training as well, right?
Well, that's it. That's why they call it combat engineering. Because when you deploy as a combat engineer, you're deploying not just with your rifle, your ammunition, your food, your water. You're also deploying with any specialist equipment for your role during that particular mission, whether it be 20 meters of firing cable, you know, whether it be half a dozen sticks of plastic explosives, whether it be a Bangalore torpedo. You know.
Bangalore is the long steel bars that you put in the ground in Call of Duty. And
could do that, or you can improvise them with a few bits and bobs.
Yeah, but so I guess, you know, how is that training? Like,
It's mega.
Yeah. Because how do they create? Do they try to create those circumstances where you feel that urgency and?
Yeah. So, but it's all it's built up. So you'll do 3 or 4 weeks, and I can't remember exactly. It's a long time ago now. Bit grey now. But you'll do 3 or 4 weeks, and then they'll do a week in the field exercise. So where you accumulate that first 3 or 4 weeks, where you'll practically use in the war fighting scenario those skills of the first 3 or 4 weeks. Then you'll have a second exercise later in the training cycle, where they accumulate the first 6 or 8 weeks, if I remember rightly. And then at the end, you have the big final exercise, which accumulates everything you've learned.
And how, if you fail at that, I mean, if you make a mistake or you know,
you get back squatted and get to go again. But there's a fairly rigorous testing regime. Every smaller element
is tested.
Yeah, there's a day of testing for every element. So they catch you there. They don't leave it till the exercise to say you failed. Go back to the start.
Yeah,
you might fail.
There are milestones.
Yeah. So and these milestones are. Yeah, it's you've got to pass the written exams. You've got to pass the practical exams. It's pretty robust, and they'll send you back, and then send you back, and then eventually, if you just don't have it, if you just can't be an engineer,
go and let's move you somewhere else.
Yeah, they won't kick you out of the army. They'll really try their best to find a niche for you, because you've already sworn an oath to the Queen. They're not gonna waste that want.
No. And I guess especially, and like now, it's probably difficult to recruit, or more difficult to recruit into this, that now that there is so much other options, you know, education-wise and career-wise. Do you know what I mean? Like I have a feeling that young people have more options on their table now than maybe you had when you were doing this, like some 20-something years ago.
Yeah, maybe. The world is fairly affluent now, right? We do live in come on, let's face it, we live in an affluent society now. Everybody's got what they want, one way or the other.
There's no second-hand clothes.
Yeah, you tend to find that there is either it's more divisive now. It's have and have not. There's no sort of middling, I suppose. No, I don't know what they're doing now. I know recruitment is way down. But the army is becoming more technical and smaller. And being reshuffled, and all the better for it. You know, all the better for it.
But talking about that technology, because I mean, before we started recording here, we were talking a little bit that there is so much that has come out of the military, like technology and materials, and you know, like all sorts of things that we actually use in our day-to-day life. But originally, how was that when you were? I can imagine now that they're using virtual reality and different kind of things, enhanced reality or whatever, to train people. Was there something like this, like when you were training, where you were like, "What the fuck? This is cool," you know, leading or edge technology?
I think for me, the pinnacle of technology was I think it was the small arms wing, and we went in there, and it was set up like a shooting range, but it wasn't. There was a big projector screen showing us the village, and the magazine we put on our weapon had a huge cable sticking out of it, and it didn't have a bullet in it. It obviously had all very low tech now, but then this was like, what the
so it sensed what you were shooting at.
Yeah. And it was like, well, and we had one go on that, like, and then you were done. Then it was back to the field, you know, and then eventually you're on a live firing range. So it was, it was kind of like, wow, this is where it's going. And now, obviously, you know, and then there was exercises after that with basically laser tag, if you will. Maybe a bit more technically advanced than laser tag, but pretty much laser tag. And that was the pinnacle of technology and training for me when I was there. Everything else was basically just making you physically and mentally robust, and repetitive training. And
you were never close to giving up. I mean, you never felt that this is too hard or too repetitive, or.
I didn't really feel like giving up until I got to the last half hour before I finished commando training. Once I felt like just sacking it out the whole lot, but that passed quickly.
Talking about that commando, Green Beret, how did that happen?
I got to my unit in the engineers, and my illusion, the bubble burst. All through training, I was working my way up to something, and I got to the unit in Germany, and everybody had a pot belly. Everybody drank too much beer. Everybody drove armored vehicles, and it felt a bit 9 to 5. It felt a bit vanilla. So I was selected quite. I was asked to quite early on. I became a physical training instructor as part of that unit, and then I still was bored. I wanted to do, and so it was either join 9 Squadron, the para version in the engineers, or 5-9 Commando Squadron, independent Commando Squadron as it was then, and I liked the idea of the commandos, gentlemen. Bunch of gentlemen, just a bunch of James Bonds wandering around. Brilliant. That was it. That's going to be me. And I funnily enough, I applied, and my troop commander then, my boss, he said, "No, I'm not signing it. You can't go." So I signed my own joining instructions and went AWOL.
You faked his.
Yeah, I faked his signature.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, completely. I can't believe I said that out loud. And then I arrived down in Chivener in North Devon. Nobody turned me away. Nobody arrested me. I thought, right, I'm in.
Yeah.
And then my worries came from another avenue. I turned up there, and you just look around and you just see everybody's wearing a green lid. And it's like, wow, everybody's a machine. Everybody looked fit, squared away. And it was just, And
you were not fit and square.
Well, I was fit.
Not in that.
No, not that way. I was a regimental boxer. At best, I was, fit for. I was ring fit, or I was fit to take PT lessons, but I wasn't commando fit. Commando fit it has a robustness about it, I think anyway. I still stand by that. Very proud of myself and all the lads too, and all the lads that come after. Absolute machines. Brilliant.
So you get there and
yeah, I just joined the train, signed up for the train. I'd already signed up for the training, so I just turned up when I was told. I was where I was supposed to be, or I was with the kit I was supposed to have, and I started the training. And it was brutal.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Because that's like the elite. I mean, these are the elites.
There's only one more tier after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
what's that tier?
That's the SAS. Yeah.
That's like, are the SAS comparable to Navy SEALs or something? Or
no, don't
what?
be silly.
No,
yeah.
no,
Navy SEALs are rubbish.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean because we know less about the British military than we know about
yes and no. Both. So yeah, they're both tier 1.
Yeah.
You would call them tier 1.
Uh-huh.
So that would be called tier 1 special forces. Tier 2 is paras, marines, and so on. Well, give or take, But yeah, so yeah, there was only one more step after that, and that was later in my career. I went that way. So yeah, I got there and I just signed up and started training. I passed a selection process they have there called the beat up. Fucking horrible.
Beat up.
It's called the beat up.
What does that mean?
Because you get beat up. No, you don't actually get beat up, but you're standing there in your little army shorts with your green t-shirt on, with your white patch on your chest, with your surname on it, and it starts from the first morning. It starts with the physical training test. The physical training test to join the army has been augmented, so it's just a little bit harder there, And so, yeah, the tests start. It's phys all morning, then it's briefings, then the lessons start, then it's infantry skills, then it's more physical training, then it's bottom field training, log lifting, rope climbing, assault courses, infantry skills. It's down to the estuary where you're running through the mud, crawling through the mud, and it's hours and hours and hours. And then you go to the Welsh mountains for a week, and it's every morning you're down by the stream, showing your kit perfectly dry, perfectly immaculate. You've just come out of the field. You spent all night next to the stream. You've got to lay your kit out on the poncho, immaculate, ready to go back to the mountains. Walk all day. Next day, again.
How long is this training, the commando training?
Well, the beat up 3 or 4 weeks. It started off as 3 weeks.
It's a really uplifting name, beat up.
Well, it says exactly what it says in the tin. If the name scares you, don't even turn up.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few hilarious things. I ended up as staff for the beat up before I left, which was a bit of as a compliment. Brilliant job to have. But you get given a present by the staff if you're not if you're weak or falling behind, but if your character needs a bit of a
nudge,
and so it's like they got a chain with a 5 kilo weight on it, sprayed gold. So that's a bit of bling. You get to wear that chain for 24 hours. But on the beat up, you don't walk anywhere. You have to run everywhere. There's no walking allowed. So you have to double everywhere. So if you get your present for being a bit of a cheeky sod,
then you need to
you
carry
get this
that
big
5
chain,
kilos.
yeah, your B.A. Baracus chain around your neck, or they've got a French beret, which obviously this beret is black, and nobody wants a black beret when you want a green beret, and it's huge and it flops down over your shoulders. Or you get a log that you have to paint a different color every night, and so you get these gifts to carry with you as
just to kind of give you a little push.
It's a little bit of character building. It's like don't be such a cheeky sod, If you continue to fail, this is your sort of first little warning. We've got our eye on you now. Get rid of your present as soon as you can,
So the beat up is 3 weeks, and then the whole commando thing is.
Then you go down to Lympstone, and the all arms commando course is 11 weeks, or was it 10 or 11 weeks? God, memory.
And when you came out of this, I mean, versus the Al that joined this, did you feel a big difference on yourself? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Physically?
Oh, I'm still a machine. You get to the end of the bottom field. I'll tell you briefly about Lympstone, because it's where I got caught for being AWOL. So I get to the end of the first phase, and
the guys in Germany are looking for you.
Yeah. So I found out later they weren't actually looking for me. They knew exactly where I was, but they let it ride. And my sergeant major from Germany turned up at the end of the bottom field phase, a testing phase, where you do a bunch of physical stuff at Lympstone, the commando school. Because after the beat up, you go to Lympstone, where all the Royal Marines are training, and then you do your all-arms commando course, which is, like I say, 11 weeks long. And they have their, again, interspersed exercises to find out if you can continue. So I'm there in the bottom field, and I'm thinking, I'm going to smash this piece of cake. I was already in the top few lads for physicality. A few friends like Nate and Dave, and a few others. We had no worries about the phys. It was a game to us now. We were squared away.
So we're in such a good shape that
just bouncing around, trying to set records, basically trying to set speed records on Lympstone. And then I look at the spectators, and there's the admin officer, and then there's my old sergeant major, and I was like, shit. I'm going to fucking jail for a really long time. And he told me before I started, they called me over, and I was like, yep, game's up. I was like, hello, sir. And he's like, Sapper B, what's going on with you? Where have you been? Well, I've been down 5-9. And he said, right, fair enough. Well, you better pass, because if you fail, you come back to us, you go to jail. You better pass, and good luck. So I cracked.
No pressure.
I cracked on,
Yeah.
He knew, though. And to be honest, Sergeant Major Beto was a really good. He had my back. He knew what I'd done, and he obviously brushed it under the table so I could complete.
Move on, yeah.
Yeah, he knew the squadron was the Germany was too small for me.
Yeah, and so the commandos are deployed for I guess special assignments. Like it's not like into some kindergarten stuff, right?
Yeah, it's hard to really quantify, I suppose, in that sense. So they're deployed for certain roles, yeah. They're not deployed to go and be UN troops somewhere. They're not deployed to be peacekeepers. Yeah, I suppose they're deployed to fight wars. They're for war fighting. They're for conflict. And
how long after you are trained? I mean, so when you finish this training, do you get deployed right away, or do you wait and then you need to train a little bit more? Because I guess you need to keep yourself fit all the time and sharp and.
Well, it's forever. It's forever. It's it forever. Once you're in, you're training all the time. So you go. I was lucky enough that we deployed straight out. Not deployed, but yeah, we deployed straight out to northern Norway for our Arctic survival course. So I finished the commando course. Had a couple of weeks in the squadron, learning daily life, which is training, physical training 3-4 times a week, both green and normal gym stuff. And yeah, there's maintaining all of the kit. We have all sorts of machines. We have all sorts of kit that needs to be maintained, you know. There's always guys coming and going from courses, you know. It's a constant cycle of activity. And the more you're willing to do, the more you get to do. So if you've got energy, they'll give it to you. Bloody fantastic. And then there's also the sports, you know. There's the boxing team. So... But yeah, it was almost straight away we were going to Norway. So we were preparing for Norway. That was winterizing everything, getting some more kit. And then we flew out to Norway. A bit chilly, being winter time. And there you did all your infantry stuff and commando stuff in the cold. So everything you could do before, you could now do at -20, -25.
Wow. So they're putting you through just different environments and circumstances.
You go and do military exercises. Well, first of all, you do your survival week, which is learning military skis, so telemark skiing on your touring skis, and survival. So you're staying out there, digging your Quincy shelters, living out there in your snow holes.
And what about this kind of extreme survivals that you see sometimes in some TV shows, that you have nothing, you take care of yourself for 24 hours or 48 hours or a week or something?
As long as you wipe your ass, 24 hours is no really big deal, is it?
No.
And yeah.
But you learn how to. I mean, if you would be dropped in an area like this or got lost in an area, you learn all those survival skills.
Yep.
Not drink the yellow pea and
don't eat yellow snow.
Yeah,
and,
yellow snow,
don't drink your own pee the second time it comes through. I think.
That's what Bear Grylls says. In the only episode that I've seen of Bear Grylls, he said never drink the second pee.
Yeah, never drink the second pee. Yeah, that's right. I've never tried. I only drank the first.
Yeah. But I had wanted to. So how is it like? Then you get deployed into combat, into action, right?
So
you've been in Afghanistan, Iraq.
So we were living the life. We were doing courses. We were training. We all had bikes. We all had surf wagons. We surfed. We had big street barbecues. We were living the life. And then some silly buggers flew planes into the Twin Towers. And overnight, things changed. Yeah, and so, yeah.
And you knew it when you heard about it? Or
yeah, immediately. Immediately that happened, the world changed for us. Yeah.
And same then you get sent where?
Oh, well, first trip was straight out to Afghanistan. Yep.
And how was that? What's the feeling when you go there? Are you excited or are you scared?
Oh, first of all, you're excited. Before you deploy, you'll go out and get shit-faced. Absolutely drunk off your heads because you are fucking doing it at last. You're getting to go and do it. And remember, we hadn't really been war fighting since the Falklands. So
82 or
so we hadn't been doing it. So all this training was just training. We were hungry. And I remember looking around the bus with Mo Howard with his nose burnt off from doing flaming sambucas, big blister on the end of it. Gav Man he'd shaved his head, but he'd missed a bit at the back, so he had a little tuft. And just freaking, we're all young and we're all at the height of it, and we're just going for it. It's like there's excitement. There's absolute elation. We are going to take it to the bad man.
So you're like, 25 there? Or?
Yeah, youngster. Yeah, about that, give or take. Yeah.
But no fear?
Oh, not at all. Who's going to stand against us?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. No.
And when you go there, so you go to Afghanistan. Which city or what part did you?
Well, we went to Bagram,
Uh-huh.
and then it was again. You arrive, and you're not going straight. You're not landing in a gunfight.
In a war zone, yeah.
So we landed in Bagram, and we had to switch aircraft. And then we got our first taste, because as we were coming off one aircraft, somebody was firing rockets at someone else, and so we were actually coming off one aircraft and getting ushered onto another one. And it was like, fucking hell, it's real, it's on, and then you're on a Hercules doing a bound to get up to a Bagram, and there's no seats, you just sit on the floor, and it's a slick aircraft, and it's and you're like, fucking hell, this is really on now. And I'm not sure if it's fear, but it's certainly the energy's changed, Yeah.
And when you go there, do you know what you're getting into? I mean, do you already, I don't know, or do you land there and then they tell you, okay, so this is the situation, this is what we're here to do?
Well, before you go, you have pre-deployment training, so you will have an element. You will have I think can't actually remember how long it was, but all the training you do leading up to that starts to change to suit the situation that
you're going into.
You're going into. Yeah. So that all the training gets arced towards where you're going, or what they expect you to fall into.
Mm-hmm. Do you learn the terrain and the topography, or you know what I mean, like or?
Well, I was still fairly junior, and so I waited to get my orders, and in an orders brief, quite a standard brief, you get the ground, you get the situation, and you get the scheme of maneuver. How it's going to happen, how it's going to go down. All the commander's intent, as we say, and so you have all this. And so, did I have an idea? Had an idea of the ground in general from pre-deployment training and stuff, and the mission was, the overarching mission, but specifics, nah, fast and loose. I have to say, really, to be honest.
And so and does it work like this, that you then go out on, I don't know, patrols, or is it and then or did you go out and attack someone? I mean, how?
See, it depends, right? Because you got to think there's a whole lot of different stuff going on at any one time. So we went up to Bagram, and one of the first things you got to do is secure where you're staying. And you've got to make things fit to live. And so I thought I was going to be super cool when I got there and get like loads of Gucci jobs and be running around shooting the Taliban. And I was digging shitters, for my first day. Digging shit pits. I was like, this sucks, man. I was like, fuck, not again.
All this training.
Oh, bollocks. But it's an essential part, just like polishing the brass in basic training. Because if you don't dig your shitters, if you don't have a latrine, then people are going to get sick. And then you're not battle ready. And then you're actually going to find yourself, being useless, being a burden. When that's not how it goes. So interspersed with those duties of building a wall around the base.
So like a compound or
yeah. And interspersed with doing those duties of building that compound, we were going out on patrols. And so you could call them clearance patrols, not necessarily fighting patrols, but you go out on patrols to the local areas, make friends, because
build connections.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something we do. Brits do that better than anyone else in the world. We go out there, we hang out with the locals. It's called Hearts and Minds, and it's really, really important because that will be one of your first indicators that something right or wrong. And so you've got to foster these relationships, because you may also find yourself in a situation where it's those locals
that's going to save your ass if something goes wrong.
100% of the time. Yeah, not 100%, but 100% correct. Yeah.
And why do you think that the British do this better than others? The building those relationships is from the empire.
We've been doing it longer, and the Brits ourselves. I know we're a bunch of islanders, but you can't go anywhere in the world without finding somebody, one of us, or without finding somebody that's had our influence, if you consider history.
And so how and how were you? I mean, this is are you there relatively soon after the conflict or starts or
Beginning?
And how did the locals that you met, like, were they happy that you were there, or you know, were they reserved, or were they concerned?
So the locals I met, I can only say the locals I met, we were on a job, so we're outside the base. We've been walking for days and days and days, patrolling. I'll call it patrolling, yeah, or walking, because as a civilian aspect. Now, walking for days and days, all our kit, looking for these caves where the bad guys are hiding, and we find a load of caves. But we're really trying to localize these caves. We're sure they're in this area. We're looking for them, and so we go and chat to the locals. You know,
have you seen anything strange?
No, where are the caves, lads? Seen anything strange? Where's Taliban? Over there. Thanks. Where are the caves? Over there. Cheers. Yeah, why not? Ask the question. It's not like you're going to hide who you are, is it? You know, and they, it's like, hey, everybody, I'm just from the other village. No, you're a squaddy, you know. So we got to one village and we were knackered. We were shattered. We were absolutely shattered. We've been out there for a few weeks now, and you know, I think we'd missed one resupply, so we're running quite short on our food and water, and we're knackered, mate. And the locals came out. We met them under the village tree, and they brought out tea and bread and stuff, and it was mega. You know, and they fed us, and then he said, look, tell you where the caves are, because we don't want our kids running in there and tripping the booby traps and getting themselves blown up. You know, they're over there, lads. So then we went off and cleared the caves of the bad guys and blew them up. And it was one of the biggest explosions since World War II.
Yeah.
At that time. Yeah.
But how I guess, did the compound ever get attacked? I mean, have you been in that situation where you're...
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Depends, a bit shit, really. How does it feel? I don't really think about it. Grab your gear, chuck it on, grab a rifle, switch your radio on, and somebody starts coordinating fire and movement. And that's it. At the end of the day, I'm in a compound, not got anywhere to run. Got ammunition, weapons, fire control. Yeah.
And but is it easy to keep a cool head? And you know, because you know, like I don't know, like if you drive a car, you can have extensive training and experience of driving a car. But then when you drive a car in an extreme, or you end up in an extreme situation, it's often that you kind of you don't go by the book, you know, or you have some sort of a natural response. Is that, I mean, I guess that's part of the military training that you...
Yeah, when you drive a car, you're not trained for extreme situations, are you? Example is you're from Iceland. You're trained to drive the car in snow and ice. So that is actually an extreme situation for everyone else around you. When somebody starts shooting or rockets start landing in your compound, you grab your gear, it's instinctual, switch on, everybody dials in, and you've already got preset what we call actions on. You already know where you're running to take up position. You've already got roles ready, because you don't just sit in there having a chillsville. You're prepared for them to come.
And you expect them to come.
Yeah. And so it's not a surprise, is it? It's a surprise for them to fall into a weight of fire that's organized. We have an organized response, you know. I know I'm making faces at you here as if to say, what the fuck? Why? Yeah, it's a bit obvious. Of course we would. We're British, you know. And when you're a youngster, you're doing as you're told. You do as you're told. And because of the way you're disciplined on the way up, you're actually more frightened of fucking it up and fucking it up for the man stood next to you, your mate, than you are of getting hurt.
Because you can also, I guess that you take confidence in that if you get hurt, someone is going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And someone is going to cover your back.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it sounds a bit cheesy to say it's for the bloke next to you, but you know what? It is though, because nobody's there alone. You're all there. And I've been in several compounds over the years where we've been attacked. And when they come for you, you're looking left and right, and you sometimes you're grinning, sometimes you're not. It's dirty, it's smoky, it's stinky, and you're just looking around yourselves, and you're nodding at each other, you know?
Yeah. I guess there is a specific bond that's created amongst the men that are, or the people who are together in these circumstances, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about injuries and these kind of things? I mean, like, have you had some combat injury or I don't know, some shrapnel or something or
I suppose you would just call it, it's of course fucking combat injury, but I got IED'd in a truck and it's compressed my lower spine. So it hurts a little bit now and again. It's uncomfortable. I'm not. Look, I really don't even.
That's when you drive over some sort of a mine.
Yeah, an improvised explosive device went off as we were bombing down the road in an armored car, and it went off under the car. Yeah, so it give my spine a bit of a jarring. But you know what? The reason I don't rate it is because I've got 10 fingers, 10 toes. I'm still hitting the gym. I'm still hanging out with my kids.
But your knees are fucked.
Oh, my knees are fucked from running around like a silly bugger with backpacks on. That weigh a ton. That's just, they've worn out from the miles.
And you were never, I mean, like in this situation when a bomb goes off under the car that you're driving in, I guess, do you black out somehow? Or?
I did another instance. Yeah, we caught one up in northern Iraq that knocked me out. Yeah.
And when you wake up, are you like checking? Do I have my legs?
Yeah, absolutely. Woke up, your mate's patting you down, looking for a big bleeder. Your eyes open. You're all right. Yeah, I'm good. And you get back on the gun.
Mm-hmm. And when you have these situations and you come back, let's say when you're off duty or you know the patrol or the mission ends. Do you get some? Is there a therapist that you meet, or is there some trauma relief, or
My mates are my therapists, really. Back when I went through, there wasn't much of it. It was coming in towards the end of my time, because we weren't used to, I suppose, the weight of trauma, because we lived through the Great Peace, and now we were seeing lots and lots of people getting hurt. However, that didn't really come in until I was a contractor, and there was no help for contractors. None.
Mm-hmm.
Then
you're on your own.
Yeah. You went out there, you rolled the dice, and if you came home a little bit left of center, you tough. You took the money.
Mm-hmm. But what about casualties, like on both sides, both with the enemy or the ones that are in the line of fire on the other side, and then amongst you? I mean, how is it to go through that? I mean, how do you process that?
I don't actually know how. I mean, I don't think there's a formula. We all have our own coping mechanisms. I think you find mates to talk to. Keeps you awake sometimes. On others, what really helped me was when I got to volunteering in the hospitals and changing the direction I was on. But really, how do you cope with it? I don't know. When it happens, you just get on with it. Dig in, get on with it, square it away. And then later on, if it comes back to you, I won't lie. They're having periods of drinking. I'm British. There's always periods of drinking.
Yeah.
More so, I'm Scottish. There's always periods of drinking. However, reflection now as I get older comes in the form of friends who've also walked the same path or similar paths, or even reflection comes in having really good friends who know nothing of my world and talking about things that are completely not of my world. Good friends like Jeff, you know. Hanging out with him is just refreshing because we're so different, and he's such a gent, you know. That's how I cope. And I suppose it's my in truth is, well, actually I was on a bit of a spiral when I met my Evie, my wife, and she just switched all the lights on. It was like everything was color again. If you think of the Rolling Stones and Paint It Black, well, that felt like the hole I was in. When I met my Evie, you know, the colors came back to me.
Because I can imagine. I have never been through anything even remotely close to what you have done, and I know we are just scratching the surface here, because you know we don't have 15 hours or 52 hours or whatever. But it's just very easy to see how stepping out of this world is probably harder than staying in it at some point, because in some way this just getting on with it and just keep going is often the best coping mechanism, because you never really give yourself the time to reflect, and there is nothing else.
They call it being biased to forward movement, isn't it? And I'm still a bit of a decision maker in those terms. Even in the civilian world, I will always favour a decision to keep moving forward. Got to admit, getting out or hanging up, getting out of the game completely, and studying and trying to square away what I would call a day job, and be that 9 to 5 person. It is hard. It's hard because you're not taught how to do that. You're really good at loads of other stuff. You know, you're really good at making sure you're on time, smart, clean, tidy. You're really good at planning if something goes wrong. You're really good at so many things that people don't see as transferable skills, because they don't know what box to put you in. And so they make it really, so you, again, it's like me being back in school. You don't actually believe you have a niche out here. And because you don't believe you have a niche out here, you feel a little bit like the black sheep or the ginger stepchild. And when people find out who you are, or they look at your CV and see Commando or Green Beret or military service, they're actually more afraid of it than think of it as an asset. Because, everybody's got PTSD. They're going to just get a gun and kill everyone in the office. Like, that, fuck's sake. You know, more, piss off. Yeah. You know, and you're like, really? Or are you just...
Do you even have a gun?
What, with me now?
No, I mean, I wouldn't mind though, but...
Loads.
Yeah?
Loads, everywhere. No. Yeah. That's not a straight answer, is it?
No.
Good.
Okay, I'm okay with that. But talking a little bit more about this, it's been a lot I mean, these two wars, if we take Iraq and Afghanistan, are not like traditional wars like we know in history. They are maybe more like the Vietnam War than they are like the Second World War or the First World War, where you had like a conscious political decision of two nations to fight with their militaries. Mm-hmm. So in Iraq and Afghanistan, you're more fighting with some fragmented groups of
that's guerrilla warfare, isn't it?
It's really? Guerrilla warfare, yeah. And I mean, Afghanistan I don't think they ever had peace, and I'm not sure they will ever have peace.
It's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just recently, the way the Americans pulled out and left a government that we're all trying to build with their ass in their hands, you know, while the Taliban are starting to roll up the country again.
Mm.
That's a fucking shame.
I mean, I guess for guys like you that have been there, blood, sweat, and tears, you've seen your friends die, you've seen them go injured, you've seen, civilians die and enemies die, and no death is nice, but it's a price of war. If you've done all this sacrifice and then you pull out, does it make you, I don't know the word, disillusioned somehow?
So I didn't really think about it with Iraq, because I've been back to Iraq a lot, because I've taken part in some of the reconstruction, medical support, and I've been quite active in that. And so I'm seeing the country develop and grow.
And you were there just a few weeks back, right?
Yeah. So I've seen the country develop and grow, which is sadly feels like starting to swing the other way again. But hey ho, we'll see. And they had a really bad time with ISIS in Iraq, and so they've really welcomed the Western approach back again after they seen off ISIS with a little bit of help. I think with Afghanistan, because I haven't been back and seen any transition at all myself, I haven't really gone back there. Just hearing and seeing the media and how the Americans pulled out very sharply because populism and politics, I suppose. I was pissed off. I was really fucking pissed off because it was dangerous and it was shit and people got hurt. I think of a couple of my friends who are still alive with bits missing, and you're just like... However, the actions we did, what we did when we were asked to do, we fulfilled our tasks under our orders, with thought, and we were mindful, and we did good jobs. We gave them the best chance we could. It isn't my job, or wasn't my job, to say 20 years later, well, we were right then and we're wrong now. We could have been wrong then and we're right now. So I suppose for me to get morose about it or angry about it and get pissy about it, well, that's also not my place. At the end of the day, I was asked to do a job, fulfill a role. I got to fulfill that role with a bloody amazing bunch of guys. And you know what? If I was asked to do it again back then, I probably wouldn't change. Probably wouldn't change a thing.
But you go into this and feeling it was your way from being the black sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come out of this and you feel like a black sheep.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Ginger stepchild. Yeah. Never going to change. People don't like you. And I'm talking about Joe Blogs. I remember coming back from Iraq to North Devon, and there was a little protest in the roundabout in the town centre. We're all baby killers and shit. Like, just a bunch of students don't know a thing about life or war. And they're protesting it. Oh, go fuck yourself. Just, you know what? I know I've used profanity probably quite a lot on this podcast, but you know what? You don't actually have the right to protest. You do, but you don't. I don't feel you have the right to protest. You have your rights and your freedoms, because that is what being civilized means. So you know what? I don't like being the ginger stepchild in your point of view if you're that snivelling student who's had everything handed to him on a plate, especially your freedoms that better people than you have earned, and better people than me before me have earned them. So you know what? Then yeah, I will graciously be the ginger stepchild, so you can go on there and...
But it's a fact that we live in a world today where we are very, very happy to enjoy the results of what people like you do, but we just don't want to see it. and we want to be able to criticize it when it suits us. And I mean, I you know, I think that is the thing, and behind war or military action is politics. It's not like a guy like you just decides to charter a plane from Devon and fly into Iraq and start something. You are there on
on orders.
You're there on orders from the people that these students that were protesting voted and will continue to vote.
Well, see, they're not protesting against the war, really. They're protesting against a political decision. I think that as long as soldiers are deployed from a civilized country with due process, then we can only hope that that due process is robust enough to not deploy young men and women into harm's way on a whim. You know, there is the UK is one of the oldest parliaments. It has its decision-making process, and I am proud of my actions, both physical and moral, and proud to have stood with my mates.
But do the politics matter to you? Like when you're there fighting, do you think of the end goal, or do you have to break it down to this?
Absolutely, yeah. When I'm there and the food is shit and I'm tired and somebody's lobbing grenades over the wall, the first thing I think is I'm not going to vote Conservative next year. Shut up, mate. You're talking crap. Of course I don't think about fucking politics.
No. But do you know what I mean? Like, are you looking at the big picture? Or are you just thinking, okay, now I'm just going to make sure that I survive, or I'm just going to make sure that we capture that hill or whatever, you know?
There's short, medium and long term thought, isn't there? The bigger picture is when I get back to my family, how am I going to keep my family together? I've been away 6-7 months. You know, I'm going to go back to the family and pay my electric bill, get the car serviced, paint the wall,
be normal.
Because all of those things still need done. Right? I don't have somebody doing all that stuff for me when I'm away. So when you're away, you still got to come home and fix a leaky sink, you know, and you want to look through all your kids' homeworks, and you got to paint the walls, clean the carpet, fix the car, change the tires. All of that still needs done, because effectively life doesn't stand still. So that's your bigger picture.
Getting home safely.
Yeah, that's your bubble. It's getting home safely and then looking after that bubble. Once you look after that bubble, you worry about the rest. But if you think any more beyond that, then you've got far too much time on your hands. You need to go and clean something or get a shit job off someone. Yeah.
So you're not thinking too much about the political agenda or the you're more internalizing it on or focusing on your task at hand and then getting out of there safely.
I can answer that with a question for you. It doesn't matter what I think. I can't ask why. Can I? I've got a role. If I don't do my role, then there's a gap. And if there's a gap, the guys around me have got to fill it.
Or someone gets hurt.
There you go. So, you know, if you've signed on to it, fulfill it to 200%. That's it. If you don't like it when you get home, sign off. Leave. Yeah. It's a bit stark, but yeah, we'd all like to be thoughtful. But moments of reflection, there aren't many there and then.
No, and I think that the world that we live in today was not created with peace. It was created with war. We then got to live the peace so far. And I guess it wouldn't work out if you were, I don't know, like 50 guys in the compound and all of you have a how do you say, an independent thought about how to do and what to do and what different morals and different things.
Well, we're all allowed independent thought.
Yeah, of course, but you can't stray from the...
No, that's right. And if you get given an order that you feel is illegitimate, you don't follow it. You know?
Oh, you do? So that's
you do not know. If there's an order that you deem to be immoral or illegitimate, you don't do it.
And what happens then?
Well, there'll be
a consequence.
I've never seen it. Because nobody that's ever told me to do anything has told me to do anything I thought to be unjust. However, if that came across, then there would be a reshuffle, let's say, because if you're thinking it, the guy next to you is probably thinking it, I suppose. But this is complete conjecture. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, we're talking hypothetical.
Yeah. Never happened with the guys I was with. We're all on the same page.
But when people say baby killers, I wanna. So
the babies are little people that don't really talk or walk yet. I don't know. Yeah.
No, but when that is, or civilian casualties, let's say, like, I guess that in military training, your last resort is to shoot, right? I mean, you should use whatever.
I'm not a cop, mate. My first resort is to shoot you.
Okay.
If you're going to shoot me, I'm going to shoot you. I'm not going to say, "Hey, stop," am I?
No. But,
Sorry.
but an unarmed person.
An unarmed person.
Yeah.
It completely depends where you are and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just because you can't see that they're armed doesn't mean they're unarmed in some cases. And you'll have lines drawn. We have different rules of engagements for different places and different jobs.
And those instructions are given for each.
Those are given and agreed.
Yeah.
And we try and follow them as best we can to the situational letter.
But how is it, like, I have a feeling, and it's only a feeling because I have no experience with it, but I have a feeling that in both in Iraq and in Afghanistan, the difference between a civilian and an enemy isn't always very clear. That because you're not fighting an organized military as
you're
such.
right.
They're not wearing uniforms.
You're right. And sometimes a guy as a civilian 1 minute can pick up a rifle from the floor from his buddy that just hit the bricks, and then you're gonna shoot him too. Then you're gonna shoot the next one till they learn their lesson.
Mm-hmm. And there is no like a situation where you, I don't know, like where you thought that you would die. There hasn't been.
Oh yeah, God yeah, oh yeah. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
I ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And then that was in Iraq.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate or?
Yeah, I just ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and very because of the politically charged situation at the time with what happened on the borders with the UN drone strikes. Let's call it a protest went on, a bit of flag burning, and I just happened to be stuck in a traffic jam surrounded by people that didn't like Westerners.
And how did you get out?
I sat there and waited not to be seen.
But just bending down in the car?
Just sitting there, waiting.
Uh-huh. And?
They didn't see me.
Uh-huh. And but is it like that? I mean, if you go to Baghdad now, you need to be conscious. You need to be careful.
Yeah, you do need to be careful, especially when you're a pasty white Scotsman. I kind of stand out. I don't blend in.
I felt the same. I felt I ended up in the wrong neighborhood in Tanzania once, they just saw monetary value in me. They didn't see any military or strategic value. It was just they knew that I had $100 in my pocket, and I was a bit scared back then. But what about like I was going to ask you about that with like. So when you are in circumstances like this or an environment where you're always alerted somehow, like I guess you need to be alert. You need to be on the watch for everything, right?
It's not for everything, and this is what time and experience will tell you. You cannot. It's bullshit if you get somebody in a genuinely peaceful area like Prague going around checking hotel suites. That's just bullshit. Yeah. If the individual's doing that, then they don't know where their ass or their head is.
I have a friend who does that, but and he's been in the same places like you.
Yeah, so maybe he's shot to bits, and I'm just hanging on to my sanity.
Yeah.
But there's an extant threat, and you just do a roll-in risk assessment of where you are at any given time. And sometimes, you catch everything and you continue to test and adjust to not put yourself in those situations. Or sometimes something gets by you and you find yourself, misplaced. Find yourself in a situation that then you're, rather than being the actor, you're the reactor. And if you do your risk assessments right and you keep yourself aware, then you continue to be the actor. Once you become the reactor, you've got to change the math as quickly as you can till you're back in the driving seat.
Yeah, because you don't have the control of the situation if you're reacting, or you need to gain that control.
Well, it's I wouldn't use the word control at all. You just you need to have the impetus. You need to be the person leading the events rather than being led by the event.
But so there's nothing like where you, I don't know, I mean, are your clothes perfectly folded in your closet?
Absolutely not. I've got 2 kids.
And you cleaned the dust on the door?
No, I do not. I have a cleaner.
So you don't take any of those with you
I think
into like civilian life?
Some people do. I think what I've taken with me is it's just genuine discipline and standards. So my standards, drive. It's drive. I don't know if it was there before I got into the military or it came to me during or maybe came to me later, but the drive to keep developing, self-betterment, and also to broaden the horizon. Do not be that guy like your mate who's checking hotel room exits every 15 minutes or whatever in case there's a black hole behind them or something. I don't know. Widen your perspective, reflect. The discipline to, I know discipline. That's what I carry with me.
But
and I'm a ninja. No.
And then you say 1,300 hours.
Well, yeah.
And 1,600 hours, like a sailor.
Well, because there's like 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if I say to you, 3 o'clock, well, this is Prague.
Which one?
There's 2 3 o'clock in Prague, and if you drink around the clock here, it could be meeting you for a beer at 3 anywhere, right?
Yeah.
There's 2 5 and 6 o'clocks, definitely. There's militarisms, of course, that you carry with you. But you should be proud of them too, and absolutely.
But and then you kind of transitioned. You went into contracting, or where you go. I mean, in my previous life, I had a company. We had customers in Iraq and Afghanistan, the central banks, and so we were sending people there, and then we hired contractors or people, security people, to go with them. So I guess you were doing these kind of
I did
projects
for about 6 years.
And that's then you already had moved here to Prague, or
well, I started that, and then I moved to Prague about midway through that.
And how come you came here?
Well, my mate Jimmy. I split up with my wife in the UK. My mate invited me over here, and I stayed. It's awesome.
Yeah, you loved it from the start.
Oh, absolutely.
This is like 2008, 9, something.
I can't remember. Yeah, offhand, can't remember.
And but then you were kind of slinging in and out. You were going, and you still are. I mean, you still occasionally go on.
Very occasionally, I go away now, and I certainly don't do any jobs like that anymore. Last week was an anomaly.
And is it how is it in this? Is the money good? I mean, just in general, like from the military and being a commando Green Beret. I mean, is the pay okay or?
Nah, pay shit really.
Yeah,
but then again,
you don't spend a lot, I guess.
Oh, you don't. But do I say the pay shit, but the benefits are good? Let's just say that. But when you get out, the pay, and you take those kind of jobs, the pay is very, very good. But there are no benefits. You're on your own. You get hurt, you come home, you're on your own. There's in the field, if things go bad for you, It's you and your team. There's no support coming. You're not going to call in the Apaches and, there's nobody coming to help you, And so to that end, that's like risk versus reward,
But there, I guess, when you're contracting and you I don't know, you assemble a team to do something, I don't know, to protect maybe a contractor or something that is happening. Someone is building something or something like that, and he needs private security. It's different rules of engagement or different rules apply, I guess. Or
yeah, they do. And early on in Iraq, we were under rules of engagement a lot like the military because we were a private military contractor. But later, after the Status of Armed Forces Agreement ended, then we no longer had the rights. We no longer had, let's face it, immunity. We now had to answer to the Iraqi government for anything we did. And then it became really dangerous. It became really dangerous because more people took chances against us.
Yeah, because they knew it. They knew the vulnerability.
Yeah, and to be honest, shooting back then meant you could end up in an Iraqi jail for the rest of your life. So the bad guys got braver. Well, let's say the perceived bad guys got braver, and the perceived good guys who didn't want to be, go to jail for murder, got themselves in difficult situations.
But then you've transitioned into kind of more a training role and as you said, this advanced medical support, or am I saying that right? Yeah.
I completely re-educated as a paramedic. I'm working my way through medical academia. Just completed my master's degree in emergency medicine. I'm hoping to go after a PhD. Or if not a PhD, I'm definitely a doctorate in public health or something like this. And I do teach and drive change in global standards for austere medicine and trauma care, disaster medicine, and tactical medicine also. So I'm heavily involved in all of that. And it's a good place to be. It's a good job to have. I found a niche that fulfilled my need for constantly driving forward, but now it's academic, not physical. And also I'm still useful.
Yeah, and you're still around action somehow.
Yeah, and in a way you can say that. Yeah, it's still around action, and you're still being useful because what you do affects a very vulnerable population. People who are hurt in trauma or in an emergency. An emergency patient is a patient at their most vulnerable, and being able to either help them or train somebody to help them, then you're actually affecting something. You're still useful, and being useful as a former commando, or still a commando, always will be. Being useful is important. We all like to be useful.
But are you an adrenaline junkie somehow?
Nah, it's all used up.
Yeah,
totally.
You finished.
Bore the shit out.
But you still drive the motorbike at 160 and...
No, I don't. Who said that?
Yeah, I heard it.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah, by accident.
Just on occasion. But now and again I'll pin the throttle on an open road, far away from any cities or any speed cameras, But that's not for adrenaline. That's just for the beauty of it. An engine must be let go. Dog's got to get off that leash, take it to its limit just once or twice on occasion.
But it still must be like, you've spent better part of your adult life. You've spent 25 years, give or take, in this field, let's say.
Yeah.
Field of military emergency and situations. It must be difficult to step out of it.
There's a great poem. I can't remember all the lines for my sins, but it's a commando poem written about the commandos of the World War II, and one of the lines says, "And these men have returned to their peaceful fields, to their quiet lives, these quiet, peaceful men, you know. And I suppose that's where I am. I'm quiet, peaceful. Would be not there yet. If any of my mates hear this, they'll be like, "Shut up, Al." But it's the romantic in me that made me want to do the soldiering and save the world, I suppose, and the childish views I had then is the same romanticism that makes me now want to live that life of peaceful usefulness, bring up my kids, rebuild relationships with others that I haven't done so well at, and yeah.
And what's fascinating about wars? I mean, what and you just said now childish views that you had. What did it? I don't know. Was it different than you? Was the reality different than what you expected?
Yeah, because somebody still had to dig shitters as well as go on patrol. Somebody still had to build a fence and go on patrol. You know, you still had to. The movies. It's that romance, isn't it? You're young, you're immature, you get sold something. It is sold to you, and you buy it, and you eat it up. And when during training, it's sold to you, and you eat it up, and you eat it up. And then when it happens, it's 90% buggering about, and then 10% of, what, fuck. You know, it just goes by in an instant. And then when it's over, you're like that, fucking hell, and you're looking around and you're all still there, and you got the smell of cordite in your nostrils, you know, and you're refilling your magazines and you're checking no one's hurt, and yeah, you're prepping again for the next one. I don't know if that wasn't the draw. I didn't join the army to go fight in a war. I joined the army for a roof over my head, 3 meals a day, and a driving license, because I thought that was my way out. And then
it came with some extras then.
Oh, Her Majesty the Queen gave me an absolute fantastic skill set, discipline, an appetite for learning, a route to learning.
Physical strength, mental strength.
Mental robustness, and they just piled it on. Fire hydrant therapy, you know. You stand in front of a hydrant and you get wet. So some of it stuck. Not all of it, but some of it, you know. And the opportunities,
no regrets?
None. None. Can't have any. Can't really, because I'm still using the tools today that they gave me. And so it'd be disingenuous of me to say, oh, the army was shit because it fucked this up for me, it fucked that up for me. No, the army didn't fuck anything up. Anything I fucked up, I hold the responsibility for. Yeah. I fucked up a marriage. You know. However, that was me, not the army. The army didn't do that. You know. Anybody that can't take responsibility for their actions, you know, go boil your head.
But how does society treat veterans? You know, people that have.
I don't know.
How well does Her Majesty do for them?
They do much better now. Again, I've been here 10 years, well, a bit more than 10 years, so I couldn't really tell you. But from some good mates, they have support mechanisms in place, and they really do try.
Pensions?
Yeah, we've got pension. Might have spent it, but we got a pension. Yeah, you know. You get your pension. You do 12 years, you get half pension at 65. You do 22 years, you get a full pension when you get out. You get a lump sum. You get re-educated. You know, there's programs of re-education.
But do you? Can they call you back? Do you know what I mean? If
there's an element of being a reservist there.
Not
reservist. I was on the list. There's a certain amount of time, can't remember it, that when you leave, you get given an instruction, and you get a choice whether you're going to sign on to be on standby to go back in if should the Queen need you, or not. And I signed on to that, and then after a while it expired because of my time from being in, because I'd be no longer current, right?
So because you're not doing the active training and all the equipment that are using.
Things change. So you're no longer current, And so
No.
you would no longer be able to step back into any useful role without a period of retraining.
So if there was a global war fought with not with nuclear bombs that would annihilate everything, me and you would be called out at the same time.
Called out.
To fight. We would have to go fight at the same time.
Yeah, we'd both be, basically they'd be like, right, you two,
Yeah.
you scruffy buggers, put your motorbikes away, and here's a rifle.
Yeah. So you're not at the like, I don't know, the third reserve or something like that.
I have no idea.
No.
But should my name be on a list somewhere? I would probably be like, yeah, how much are you gonna pay me?
Yeah. But how is the relationship with your mom?
Don't see her much. Don't speak to her much, really.
Are you angry at her or?
I wouldn't say angry. There was a time. Look, she did the best she could with what she had, but her, she did the best she could with what she had. I felt that most of her care of me was more reflective of her care of herself.
Mm-hmm. She couldn't do better.
She couldn't do better for me. She could have done better for me, but she did a little bit better for herself and a little less better for me.
Mm-hmm.
She made very poor decisions.
Mm-hmm.
She made decisions that were centered maybe around her well-being versus mine a couple of times during my childhood. And that, well, hey, I'm here. So for the good or the bad of it,
it sent you onto this journey where you are.
You're on a path, right?
Yeah.
And so, I speak to her. You know, she has sort of apologized in a way for the cock-ups that she realizes now she's reflected to. However, I don't feel a need to go rush into mummy's arms and then have this great big loving relationship because I don't feel anything. Yeah, not a sausage. Yeah.
And if it wouldn't have been this career, what would have been?
Well,
what would have Al would have done if it wouldn't have been this?
Absolutely no doubt, jail cell.
Yeah.
My attitude to
that's also a roof over your head and 3 meals a day.
You know what? Actually, now it's probably a lot better than a lot of the guys trying to freaking stack shelves in the local supermarket. You know. But you're right. Yeah. No. Back then, my attitude to authority, my behavior, my rebelliousness, 5'9" Commando was a perfect home for me.
Why is it called 5'9"?
Because that's the name of the squadron, number 59. So, but we say 5'9". They just, I was naughty then too. But they found a what? They could put it into good use. They had things to do with me.
Yeah.
For behaving that way. However, if I'd behaved that way out in the real world or the world, I'd have no doubt ended up in a spiral of naughtiness and ended up in Nick. Yeah.
One last thing I'm curious about, like how, because I guess when you are physically fit, you're mentally strong, and you have gone through a lot of these kind of things. Is it difficult to respect someone who is crying because their cafe latte is a little bit too cold?
Respect's the wrong word. You know what? I try and catch myself.
No, don't.
I mean not for the podcast. For
life.
Yeah, because I'm a grown up. Right? If you're whinging because your cafe latte is too cold, then your life is really fucking good. Jolly well done, you prick. Okay? Well done. But I do it. If I go to a nice restaurant and pay for something and it doesn't come out right, I send it back. If service is rubbish, I stand up, go over to them, and I tell them, sort your shit out, please, because you know what? I'm paying for it. And so if somebody's paid, I don't know how much a cafe latte.
10 pounds or 5
if
pounds.
Somebody's paid a $5 for a cup of coffee and it doesn't come out as they're supposed to have it, then they're allowed to whinge. So it's not about the coffee. It's not about being a prissy toff. It's actually about getting what you pay for. And if more people whinged about not getting what they pay for,
it would be better.
Then maybe people would, actually.
So we need more whingers.
I wouldn't say need more. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, let's have more whingers. Yeah. Because we've got more of everything else right now.
We need to save the world from bad lattes, more whingers. Okay, Al, I think we're good. I mean, I obviously I could talk to you a lot longer because, and I know, I mean, I wanted to ask you some things, but we also agreed to keep certain things, how do you say, out of context or not to go into some details. There are other people's interest in here as well. And I guess in your case, I'm not gonna tell people where to follow you on social media or anything like that.
You probably won't find me.
Yeah, but are you looking for? Do you want people that are listening to this to follow you?
No, you know what? There's nothing really to follow.
But is there any web page, any charity, anything?
You know what? If this has sparked any interest or anything like that, really care for your retired military, and give a veteran a chance, as long as they're sober. Now, give a veteran a chance, and don't take them at face value. Some of them have got really good attributes that they can really, really use in your workplace, your workforce. They might not be able to write it on a CV, or they may not be able to
articulate it.
Yeah, articulate it, because to them it's the normal. But good leadership skills are out there, good management skills, and good discipline exists. So, if anything, give a veteran a chance, and they won't let you down.
That sounds good. Sounds really good. Guys, follow the show on Facebook, The Bunker, How the Hell Did We End Up Here, Instagram, Bunker Prague, I think it's called, and YouTube also, The Bunker, How the Hell Did We End Up Here. Amazing still photos of me and my guests that you can do whatever naughty stuff you want to do for 2 hours or more. And follow that channel and subscribe and whatever, because it looks really shitty now. I just have 174 subscribers and counting. I need more. Thanks to the sponsors, and Al, thanks for coming.
Oh, brilliant, mate.
You came here in a car. Mm-hmm. Is there a machine gun in the car?
Probably not. There's always a chance, right?
Yeah.
It is a Land Rover. So
the proper British commando car.
Come on.
Yeah. Okay, have a nice evening.
Thanks, mate.